Dr. Mark Changizi here with your Science Moment. Today I'm going to talk about, we talk about bottom up versus top down and collective hysteria. And I think a lot of folks find it much more intuitive to understand top-down directed kinds of forces. They're much more intuitive, much more causal. But in fact, the dynamics within politics is much more complicated than that. And in fact, there's a common term that I'd forgotten about, which is that politics is downstream of culture, which is just another way of getting at these kinds of complex psychosocietal, cultural selection kinds of forces. Before getting into this sort of main point that I wanted to talk about, just wanted to mention a couple sort of related things in the news. One was that I went to D.C. this last week. Did a bunch of things with the New Civil Liberties Alliance related to the lawsuit, First Amendment lawsuit against the federal government, Changizi versus the Department of Health and Human Services. Did a live event, and I did a previous moment showing excerpts from that. I'll show some, I'll link here and there in other places like at Substack to the full interview as it comes out. There's more of a TV interview that I did, a podcast, there's a Substack on the podcast that I did with the NCLA organization. And so there's a whole lot of materials that are coming out of both our lawsuit as well as us, combination me and NCLA, trying to get out the news about our lawsuit and the more general issues concerning free expression. The second thing, news-related thing concerning Iran and Secretary Antony Blinken, United States Secretary, announced that the United States is helping free expression for Iran and the flow of free expression, which is great. Of course, any help that they can get is great, but the irony seems to be lost on him and the Biden administration that they in fact do not support the free flow of information in the United States, and much of the West seems to be going down this road. In fact, what appears to be their own interpretation and understanding of free expression is that free expression is about the free expression of truthful information or consensus information, which misses the entire point of free expression. Free expression is not a manner in which we tell other people about what's true. Free expression is the mechanism by which the truth is discovered. It's completely the other way around. And most people don't understand this. You might expect that educated folks that are in power might get this, but they don't. And they're not just being mustache twiddling. They really don't get it. And this gets us to our main point today. And it hadn't quite occurred to me, and I hadn't quite said it the way that I want to say it today. When Press Secretary Jen Psaki in 2021 in May announced that she was working. In fact, let me just show you a couple clips from her in May and maybe in July of 2021. And I'll just play these as partial clips, and I'll mention some more of what she said after we see them.
The president's view is that the major platforms have a responsibility related to the health and safety of all Americans to stop amplifying untrustworthy content, disinformation and misinformation, especially related to COVID-19, vaccinations, and elections. You shouldn't be banned from one platform and not others for providing misinformation.
So you can see there, and then she went on to say after the first clip, in fact, just threatened. She goes, and the president, directly after that, and the president is, always has antitrust in his mind. So I'm putting up the actual quote. I can't see it right now what the exact quote is. These demands about the responsibility, and that we're coordinating with social media, and we're identifying censors, and we're identifying who the misinformers are, and that they should be blacklisted. And here's the threats about what we'll do to you. We'll take away your H-230 or whatever it's called protection. We will potentially relook at antitrust, regulations. These threats coming right afterwards. Now, again, what's important about this is the brazen way that they discuss it with us. These are not folks who in the background are twiddling their thumbs saying, okay, we're gonna go engage in these things which are violating notions, sort of normal Western notions of civil liberties and free expression, so that we can get our way and increase our power, or even so that we can do what's good for society, which is putting these misinformers down, even though it's violating some other precepts that we're supposed to have. No, they're out there telling us that they're going to do it. Now, what this means is two things. One, it means that they really believe that that's what free expression is, that they're not violating the First Amendment to do this, because free expression to them is about the free flow of truth, the free flow of true information. It's about getting the information out there to people. That's what they think free expression is about, right? Rather than, again, just saying it again, it's important to remind, free expression is not about projecting or vocalizing or the loudspeaker that tells people what the truth is. Free expression is the dirty, ugly mechanism by which we discover the truth, right? So the fact that they're telling us this, they're announcing that we're telling social media to censor, and we're threatening social media to do it or else, they believe not only is that the right thing to do, the righteous thing to do, but that much of the population also believes that it's the right thing to do, and won't suddenly say, "Wait a second, you're not allowed to do that. That's a violation of the First Amendment." And it's also not even good, even if encouraging and not threatening, and if it weren't coercion, even encouraging violations of free expression by private companies ought to be, under the normal notions that we have with civil liberties and free expression, understand the whole, little d democracy is all about that. That would be bad too, but it's not deemed bad by them, and they are in their kind of world, their narrative that they're part of. They know that their audience will completely accept this. And every time I have the mistake of turning on NPR, it's another story about how misinformation is rife and the government has to do more to control these big tech, YouTube and Twitter, to clamp down on misinformation. That is now the mainstream view. They are preaching to a choir that is already demanding it. The journalists are demanding it. They're demanding censorship from their government, right? This is not, of course, it is top down, but this is not simply top down. The reason that they're doing it top down and being brazen about it, just saying, look, we obviously have to do this, because they're part of a new culture that over the last 2.5 years, on the backdrop of 5, 10, 15 years, has completely changed in terms of understanding what free expression, or misunderstanding what free expression is all about. It's not merely that they're censoring us, that they're violating the First Amendment. More dangerous and more telling is that they are gladly, proudly, righteously announcing to us that they're doing it. Because what that means is that the culture itself has absorbed these new notions that are in fact anti-D democracy, anti-little d democracy, anti-free expression, anti-free speech, anti-tolerance, right? That signals to us that the true diagnosis here isn't just a top-down danger. This is a societal level problem that's been exacerbated by COVID, made much worse. And we have our job is three-pronged, fighting the federal government's violation of the First Amendment, but that's just part of it. To really solve this problem is to change the culture at the public square levels of Twitter and YouTube, and it's to change the minds of the entire population to understand that that's not what free expression is. Free expression is not about projecting the truth to the people. Free expression is the mechanism by which we discover the truth. And that was your science moment. If you haven't gotten a copy of Expressly Human, go get yourself a copy by Dr. Tim Barber and I. 10 years in the making, and in 2 years we've been so censored that we have less traction on this book, despite it being my 6th book, and despite me having sort of more people knowing about me. Mainstream journalists won't cover it. It has just been pushed down. If you have read it, give me a review, give us a review at Amazon. And that was your science moment.